thanks for tuning in. I'm thrilled today to introduce you to a commercial film director, Nishant Rana. Nishant has directed over 100 plus ad films for big brands with humor, creativity, and style. With his unique journey, we are eager to learn from his insights and hear his story. Welcome, Nishant, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mahima. It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to be part of your interview.
I'm so delighted to have you here. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your journey to become a director?
So, my journey into, when we say, when any person says that, talks about being a director, they actually are talking about being a filmmaker initially, because so my journey into filmmaking started way back as a kid, when I was around 12 years old, and my sister, who is a documentary filmmaker, she got a scholarship grant to produce a documentary in India. And so the documentary was about exorcism, it was about this remote village in Rajasthan, which is called Mehndipur ke Balaji. And people all over the country would come to that remote place just to get cure exorcism. So when I was there, I asked my sister if I could be part of the project, and along with her was another guy called Simon, which was a university colleague. So that was my first taste with filmmaking. I was there, a 12-year-old kid, in the remote part of Rajasthan, holding bags, picking up bottles, and and seeing things which I felt was highly uncomfortable, because they have a lot of ways in India how you cure exorcism. So that was my first taste with it, and I felt like the kind of experience I had, I felt there's um, filmmaking as a profession at times puts you in a position which is very uncomfortable, but the spot of uncomfortable also allows you to grow, because once you're uncomfortable it is then you grow. And when it came when I had time to think about it, after that, after 12 years, after 15 16, after I was 15 16, and I thought, like, we have a very short life, it's hardly, I'm probably 15 16, and there's a little more life. I probably would want to live it in a manner uh, where I'm shooting, where I'm not just shooting, but I'm recreating those scenes, the reality of it. So later, as I started, the moment I decided I wanted to be a filmmaker, I started making short films. One of my short film actually won Shorty Film Festival in USA in 2010. And after that, there was no looking back. I was hardly 18, and I joined Jai Hind College. I did my BMM. I went for a student exchange program for a year, and after that, I came back to Mumbai and I started, started my production house. That I still have it. So under my own production house, it wasn't just about being a director. I also became a producer, because if you are also running as a filmmaker, if you are also running the business of it, you also become the producer part of it. You understand the money part of it. So overall, if you ask me, filmmaking is not just a profession; it is also a lifestyle. You know, in a way that when you see something, you're finding frames. In a way, when you hear something, you're understanding the kind of you're trying to understand the reality and trying to understand how you can turn it into more of your own creative ideas. So you're seeking creative creativity from the reality itself, and that was how I actually got initiated into filmmaking, as a 12-year-old, because I was that was my first experience where, as a documentary, as a AD of documentary filmmaking, I was learning about how you seek inspiration, because documentary filmmaking is a different profession. You are creating stories out of thin air, right? Not just out of thin air, you're creating stories out of the reality, you're not scripting it. And that was the thought process, and that what led me to become a filmmaker.
Okay. That's very interesting. So you got inspired by your sister, and early on, you were 12 years old and you decided that you want to become a director, right? Uh,
Yeah. Around by the time I was 16, 17, I decided that, I'll probably look into being a director, because what I see is in India, filmmaking uh, in general is seen as a backup option, as a backup career option, because what people would do is they would become engineers, IIT engineers, IIM management gurus, and then they would be like, okay, I've earned a stable income and I know I can take a sabbatical and I can probably get into the game of, get and do what I really wanted to do. That is also a good process, because it's always good to have a safety net. My thought process was that if I have, if I'm choosing what I want to do, I will struggle less in doing what I'm doing, right?
exactly.
Because you already have a backup option. Once you don't have a backup option, you need to take it, you need to run it through, and you need to make sure that it happens,
Yeah.
you know.
Many of us don't have backup options, and we're just, like for me, I got into recruitment when someone referred it to me. I had no idea about it. So there's like, a lot of us, and this is the whole point of these videos. Like I'm interviewing all of you to share like all the career options that are out there. So directing should not be a backup. It could be the forefront. Like engineers, there are
Yeah,
so many engineers
exactly.
out there right now. Let's be directors, right? So, and I've seen some of your directed ad films, which are really creative and funny. Can you recount the most exciting experiences you've had by directing films? What makes you excited and motivated to continue to do this work?
So, at a point of time, there comes a moment when you start getting briefs of different kind of briefs. Sometimes you don't choose the brief that comes to you, and sometimes you do choose. And humor happen to be those briefs. Humor. So I specialize in narrative, performance humor, and stylistic films, and food films also, for that matter. And humor chose me, then I chose humor, right? Because those briefs came in, and I started working on it, and I realized that um, I have a knack of understanding humor and how to bring it on the screen. So when I talk about those situations, when I talk about one of those funny moments that happened during the set, the very first thought comes to my mind is that what we see humor is on the screen, but behind the screen, it is always a technical aspect of it. You need to, make sure that the performance comes out well. You need to make sure that on the editing table, the edit is cut on the right spot in a manner that it delivers the humor. So on set, it has happened with me that, for example, I was shooting for Early Salary, and there was this scene in a disco bar. It was sort of a restaurant turned bar, and everyone was dancing and everyone was having a gala time. And then the energy of, because there were around 70 people on set, and the energy of it was so high and intense, like of the actors, that I could feel that energy within, I could feel the energy not just within me, but also in the agency, that was sitting behind the screen. They were also very excited. Wow, the bar scene, everyone is dancing. They also felt like dancing. And then, the actor did a couple of funny scenes, and that actually translated well into not just on screen humor, but behind the screen humor as well. So that is one of those moments when I felt that the humor was not just delivered behind the screen, on the screen, but behind the screen as well.
It's very interesting. Sounds amazing. And what does a typical workday looks like for a commercial film director?
So when the projects are going on, Ideally, it is, we have to go to the production house office and meet head of the departments. More importantly, as a director, it is important to understand uh, what you're going to brief to the people. That is part of the job. You need to understand what the film is about, what the genre is. Once you have that understanding, once you make your own short breakdown, every director has their own way of working. I primarily go by reading the brief, understanding the genre, understanding the end communication, and then I work backwards and write down the short breakdown. And once I understand the short breakdown and create the mood board the way I want, I brief head of the departments. So normally that is when you talk about the work aspect, that is what comes in. As a filmmaker, as a director, my primary job is to brief all the head of department, from makeup, costume, location, art, to actors. So once I start briefing everyone, once I brief the art director, the kind of vibrant set I'm looking at, it's more like a 1 BHK. I also give a sort of a backstory. And then I'm briefing the location, the production guys about finding the location, probably needs to have a window, or we can create a window, something like that. Um, then after a point of time, I sit with the actors. I do the rehearsals, because on the shoot day there is already very little time. So this is, I'm not telling you the work, just one single work day. It is the entire process of those 7, 10 to 15 days before the production actually happens. So the workday, I mean, that way, yeah, after briefing everyone, it is more about briefing the actors, and then getting on call with the clients, doing the PPM, and presenting them what we are going to be shooting. So those are pretty much the work things that a director has to do during the work days.
That's interesting to know. So my idea of directing so far, now I've learned something more today. So for me, it was like you sit behind the camera and you direct people. That was my basic idea. I didn't have any understanding of film directing, but now I have that basic understanding.
So that is the shoot day.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Normally, work days are not just the shoot days, they are before the shoot days. Shoot day is the performance day. It's not just the actors are performing, but the director also has to perform in a manner that everything comes,
Yeah.
synchronized in a manner that sometimes you have to match the camera movement with the actor's performance. So that requires rehearsals. So all that thing, just to shoot on that day and just to complete the shoot on that day, you prepare 15 days in advance, for everything to happen. So what you said is also part of the director's job.
Yeah.
But the preparation part is I do this.
Yeah, there are a whole host of things behind that. Yeah.
Right. So even after the shoot gets done, there is a post-production part that needs to be taken care of. The editing. You have to go to the VFX, sound designing, music. So there are multiple elements, not just one element, but multiple elements you have to look at, and that's the beauty of it. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to create the reality on the screen, or you're trying to hide the reality depending on the kind of genre you're making, or the kind of film you're making. So to enact the reality, because when you look at it, reality seems so normal, but to actually create it you know is a big thing.
Very interesting to know. And so, is there any educational degree required to become a film director? For example, I have an MBA in insurance and have no know-how, as you know now, about this line of work. But if I have an interest in this field, can I still break into this field?
So ideally, to be a director, be a filmmaker, or be anything uh, in filmmaking department or filmmaking, there is no degree required, because nobody looks at your degree. What they actually look at is your portfolio, the kind of work you have done, the kind of work you specialize in. So the idea is to start creating the day you decide that you want to be a filmmaker, and start practicing that skill in a manner that you keep improving to make actors act well, or get the better lighting, out of the DOP, or get the better direct get the better set from the art director. Because at the end of it, one thing is that you're communicating, other thing is that you they will come back with their vision as well. So how you bring the middle line is something that a director's primary job is.
Are there any internship opportunities out there to enter this field of work, and how should one go about searching for such opportunities?
So it's not just about finding a marketplace for an internship opportunity in a production house. It's about, say, finding an internship opportunity in any company for that matter. It is as same as that. One way to go about is to firstly understand the kind of filmmaker you want. For example, you decide that you want to be a humor filmmaker. Then you need to look at the production houses that are doing humor ad films. Or for example, you decide that you want to work in OTT platforms. You want to make shows and all at the probably 5 years down the line. And then you understand who are the production houses that are doing that kind of work. And if you're planning to do, say, if you become really precise, you decide like, I want to do thriller kind of shows, thriller kind of OTT work. Then you find out those production houses, and then you, in a manner, firstly, you can send a resume, you can try to get in touch with it. But most of the times, I would suggest just deciding the kind of work you want to do. You can, and keeping an open idea of what you may or may not like, and then deciding, keeping an open basket of production houses to send your resume to, or send your work reel to, is the way to go. What works in the industry, more importantly, is references. You need to have someone in that production house if you really want to get into that production house. So once you have that reference, it's easier. So there is no corporate ladder that there is to climb. Because now that I've asked myself, what after being a director? The thing is, you can become a producer, right? Then what do you do after becoming a producer? There is no ladder as such. There is no like manager, senior manager. It's just this. You only become better at your skill, and that's all about it.
You mentioned having a portfolio, also having references would matter. So how do you develop your own portfolio? Like, could I direct films maybe and put it out there on YouTube, my own home production, maybe at home, whatever. So would that be something that could be my ticket to get into the production houses?
See, once you start creating work, because I feel nowadays everyone is a filmmaker. So, for example, Mahima, you are creating these interviews, you are a filmmaker too, right? And because of the fact you are dealing with how the person, the questions, you need to ask, and everything that related to it. So, one of creating itself is so beautiful. Once you start creating, you would want to create more. Once you start creating your own YouTube channel, Instagram channel, or any other channel for that matter, once you start picking up, the chances are that you are an influencer. You probably don't need the production house, right? And but when you talk about, if you don't want to become an influencer, because most of the people are not very comfortable with coming on camera, and for the reasons because of privacy, and other things, that everyone has their own reason. There is no one particular reason to anything for that matter. The approach they can take is ideally start creating content from their own phone cameras, while doing their 9 to 5 jobs, and learn to edit, learn to shoot, learn to, in fact, act also if needed. Understand the kind of voice you have. It's very important to understand yourself, because once you understand yourself, the kind of person you are, you understand your voice, and start creating those videos. For example, you like being in nature, every time you're going out, taking that long weekend, just carry the best camera you have and try taking out the videos, and try probably imposing voiceover and creating a narrative out of it and putting it out on YouTube or putting it out on social media. That is one way of creating portfolio, and then probably you can put all those links back to your website. and then sending that to the other people, sending that uh, to the team in the production houses, but majorly to reach out to the production houses for an internship. You can just say that you're seeking internship,
Very
right?
simple.
Because yeah, it is as simple as that. You're seeking internship, and if you have a reference, chances are things will work out. But if you are planning to be a filmmaker who wants to improve their skills day by day, and start with internship, you can have your YouTube channel, start creating video while also interning at the production house, and learn on the field as you do the work.
Great. And when you mention you have to have references, so how should I go about finding references then? Would LinkedIn work, or how does it work?
So, see, references that way is important. But even if you don't have references, sending across is one way of going about entering the production house. But to get results, to get quicker results, references is good. And how do you go about um, finding references? Is basically making connections, finding people, finding friends. The For example, you want to join Dharma production, Karan Johar's production internship. You need to understand who are the people working there, and if you're looking for internship, you probably need to, and you're, so even if you're looking for internship, it could be internship in the production department or in the internship in the direction department. Then you need to figure out who are the ADs that, keep working with Dharma Productions. Once you figure out that, you just need to make friends with them. It's literally as simple. Make friends with them and just say, yeah, bro, it would be really nice if you could put in a word for me. It's really it means a lot, to me, and I would really love to be part of the production house and learn along with your journey. So it's finding connections, finding references, all about making friends, I would say.
That's very interesting insight. Thank you so much for sharing that. And what would you consider to be other essential skills as a starting point for someone aspiring to become a commercial film director?
Storytelling is very important because filmmaking is an expression of storytelling, right? Once you understand how the character talks, how what scene comes after what, the three act structure, start, middle, and end, and how the character goes through the tragedy, but that is still a humor. And once you start bringing that into your real life, once you start bringing the lenses to your own eyes, you start living the life of a filmmaker. So the vital idea is to learn storytelling, to understand camera, and how the camera sees. Our eyes sees very differently from how, the our eyes perceive light very differently from how the camera perceives light, because it is the light that we see, it's the light that reflects from all the objects that we end up seeing it, right? End up seeing everything. Similarly, the cameras have different sensors. So more importantly, I would just make it very simple: storytelling, camera, performance, and editing. These four things. Once you understand these four things, you can start creating your own films, and you can start, taking it to the next level by practicing it every now and then.
That's very interesting. And lastly, drawing from your experience and success as a commercial film director, could you share the qualities or skills that you believe have contributed to your achievements? And do you have any other valuable tips or advice for an aspiring director?
So, when I decided to be a filmmaker, what I did was I went through multiple magazines, and it was during that time Three Idiots came out. It was all the more reason to actually uh, go about doing it. Go about choosing what your passion wants you to do. And then I realized the power of filmmaking, the power of cinema, right? So when Three Idiots came out, it just didn't influence me. It influenced millions of people all around the globe, right? To follow their passion, to follow what they believe in. And once that moment happened, I realized that cinema is much more uh, than what you create, because it takes a life of its own. And not just it takes a life of its own, it transforms the life of everyone who comes in, touch with cinema. Once I realized that, I felt that I need to make films, because to be able to contribute to the society and to be able to contribute and to the people, I felt was something very important to me. And so I started learning to shoot first. I started taking pictures first. Then I started shooting. Once I started shooting, I started editing. Once I started editing, I realized that there needs to be a proper flow. And this happened way back, around 15 to 20 years back. And then I realized that it needs to be scripted as to what I'm shooting. And then I started learning script writing. And once I felt that there needs to be a little more VFX element, so I started learning VFX. Right? So filmmaking is a never-ending journey. I'm still learning now. The AI tools have come up. I'm still looking at Runway, and I'm looking at Midjourney and all these tools that you can use. So for that matter, there is no end to filming. I mean, there is no way that you complete this course and you have become a filmmaker. It is not like that. You just have to keep learning. And so for me, I feel during that time, the way I set my foundation, the way I felt that I need to bring this not just into my understanding but also into my lifestyle, was the day that I set the foundation of my own career. Once the foundation is strong, you can keep building on it. So that that idea, that mindset, kind of helped me to be, where I am today.
That's amazing. And you referred Three Idiots, like it has inspired so many of us in so many different ways. Uh,
That's
in fact, I recently use it for my LinkedIn post somewhere to inspire people to, choose their own careers. Because yeah, this is what I am talking about. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing your inspirational journey, your story and expertise with us. As a successful film director, your talent and experience will surely inspire many viewers to chase their dreams. We truly appreciate your valuable insights. Thank you.
Thank you, man. It was my pleasure. Thank you for asking me